I truly believe I know what it is and why it is that people don't receive the blessings that they're looking for. It's a very simple answer, but I feel like people don't take too much into mind what it is that I'm about to say. We claim that we believe in God, and maybe we do stay disciplined to the things that He asks of us. We do sacrifice the things of the world. But when it comes to the vision that He has for us, or the path that we must take in order to gain the discipline, to gain the character, to gain those qualities that we need to have as people, and to be able to shape to be the man or the woman that God needs us to be, we end up losing faith. We end up losing track of what it is that God does and how He works. And I'm not saying that it's bad. I mean, yes, it's bad, but it's a very simple thing to do. It happens to everybody. But I feel like people not taking consideration of it, or they don't like notice that they lose faith, or they lose the understanding of how God works. It makes you end up just being like the Israelites going through the desert for 30 some years because they just couldn't muster that faith and work on their faith for God. And I feel like that's a lot of us. That's a lot. There's a lot of people like that. Going back to that story, when Moses decided to take, the whole God's people out of Egypt, for they were being enslaved and they were being, taken advantage of on the way to their new land, to the promised land. Everybody lost faith. They said, we should have stayed. You should have left us in Egypt. We got nothing to eat now. There's nothing for us to eat here. Now we're going to die in the desert with no food or water. And when manna fell from the sky, right, the food of heaven, the bread of heaven, and God fed all His people, He told them, don't gather more than what you need for the day, right? Eat as much as you want, but only for today. But what happened? People started gathering for tomorrow. They thought that God would not provide for tomorrow. People thought the struggles of the world were bigger than God Himself. So they decided to gather in for the next day. And what happened the next day? That it went bad. It wasn't good no more. And God saw that. That's why what was supposed to be a short trip, I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe it was supposed to be a 13-day trip. Turned out to be into 30 years. I'm pretty sure a lot of people died on the way there because they didn't have faith in them. They weren't working on their faith. They weren't working on their faith with God for that. They didn't trust God with the process. And we lose that as well. We have fear, or we have doubt, or we feel like things will not work out. We feel like everything falls in our hands. And that is work done in vain. Things don't work like that. Yes, we have free will, and things do work when we work, right? When we put the effort to do things, obviously there's going to be a reaction. There has to be a reaction to every action. Something is going to happen. But there's only so much we can do. Not all problems are being left in our hands for us to take care of. Some problems come into our life so that God can take care of them, and that we can trust God that He will take care of them. We're not supposed to walk around the world and think that everything that comes into our life, we're supposed to take care of that. That's not how that works. And sometimes we don't get blessed because of that. There was a time where I was just like that. And everything in my life I wanted to do by myself because I couldn't bring myself to trust anybody. Because as a man, I'm like, how can I depend on another man to do things that I need for my future? As a man, I need to muster up the strength. I need to muster up the energy to do the things I need in order to get to where I want to be. So I didn't believe in working with people. I didn't believe in working with anybody to get what I wanted. Not because I had an ego of thinking I can, maybe in a way, yeah, that I thought I could do things by myself, but it wasn't in an egotistical way. It was in a way that I just knew I couldn't depend on nobody. I couldn't depend on nobody because it was only my future depends on me. And that's just what it was. And sadly, it got to a point where even the things that were of God and that God had to take care of, I feel like that had to fall on me as well. So I wouldn't leave the problems and the things of God to God. I would take care of everything. And I thought that I had to take care of everything. Right? And when I say I had to take care of everything, it never worked, right? Because it wasn't problems for me to fix. It was things that I just simply could not do. That didn't fall on me to fix. It fell on God to do. God was trying to, he put so many roadblocks, right? He put so many things in my way, in my path. And somehow, some of these things, I don't even know how I got through them, but I did. Right? I did. Till it got to a point where I was like, okay, I can't do this no more. What do I do now? And that's when I learned, some things you just can't do. And see, my way, it wasn't that I lost faith. Maybe I just never had faith to start with, right? But a lot of people lose faith on the way there because so many things are being thrown in your life or in your path that you think that this promise and this things that you see and the vision that you have will never happen. But we can't. We simply cannot doubt God and his greatness and his power. We're not supposed to do that. Who are we to doubt him? Going back to, let's not go back to the story, but let's take Abraham's story, right? When God started talking to Abraham and said he would establish his covenant with him, he said, I will establish my covenant with you, and from you will come many kings, and I will bless you with all this land as far as you can see. Then it got to a point where God told him, I will bless you, and your wife will bear a child. You will have a child, and he will inherit the covenant that I'm giving to you. And he laughed. He didn't believe, right? He laughed. He's like, how can I, such an old man, be able to raise a child at my age? Then it got to a point where God and two angels came down, and Abraham met them, and he decided to feed them, give them a plate of food. And then God and the angels started talking to Abraham again and told him, you will have a child, you will have a son. And Sarah heard him. Sarah, Abraham's wife. And she laughed as well. She didn't believe that could be a thing. She didn't believe that she could bear a child at her big age. But you gotta understand, there's no such thing as impossible to God. Jesus tells us in the New Testament, when we say with faith to a mountain to move and go on to the sea, it shall happen. We can't imagine how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen or what is going to happen in order for that event to happen, but it will. We just gotta have faith. Everything revolves around faith. And if your blessing isn't here yet, it's probably because of that. Because you have no faith. You're walking around thinking that the things of your life are bigger than God. That the problems of life are bigger than God. And how? How can that be a thing when he's the one that created this world? How can the things of the world be bigger than him? And maybe a lot of people don't see it that way. They don't imagine it, right? It's not they don't mean to look at it that way, or maybe they don't look at it at all. But you don't keep in mind that God is all powerful and that he will make it happen for you. I know it's very easy for anybody to get stressed, right? To be stressed about work, to be stressed about life, to have, bills are piling up, things are happening, health-wise or just money-wise, things are not doing good at the moment. You just have to trust God and believe that problem is solved. Believe that what is happening, whatever you're going through, is already done. And everything fell into place how it needed to be. It seems hard, but when you keep God in your vision at all times and he is the only thing you look at, I promise you things will work out and your blessing will be there. Your blessing will be there just when it needs to be. Not whenever you want it to be, but when he decides it to be. And it sure will.